My name is Lyra Noel Park, and I'm 31. I was sitting in obstetrics, 10 feet from the exam room, where a nurse was warming gel for our first ultrasound, when my phone buzzed with a message from the man I thought I'd marry. Caleb, 29. Been thinking. When baby comes, I'm putting Sienna's name on the birth certificate. It's easier for insurance and paperwork. We know the truth. That's what matters. You understand, right? I read it twice. Sienna Hale, his ex-girlfriend, the one he swore he hadn't spoken to in over a year. The same Sienna whose name made his voice slow down, careful, reverent, like he was holding something breakable he still couldn't put down. Through the glass pane of the door, I could see Caleb sitting beside the exam table, scrolling on his phone. He didn't even look up. He was perfectly calm, perfectly casual, like suggesting that his ex name replace mine on our baby's birth certificate was just another item on his to-do list. I typed one word. Okay. He looked at his screen, smiled, and, God help me, gave me a thumbs up through the glass, like I'd just agreed to pick up oat milk on the way home. The nurse called him back for the scan. I didn't follow. I stood, walked out into the parking lot bright with noon, and sat in my car while the air conditioner hummed like a heartbeat that didn't know which rhythm to choose. Then I made some calls. First to Ava, my closest friend, and a family law paralegal. Hypothetically, I began, my voice steadier than it had any right to be, if a man asks to put another woman's name on a baby's birth certificate knowing she's not the mother because it's easier for insurance, what is that? Fraud, Ava said instantly. Textbook. False statement on a vital record, potential criminal liability, civil exposure, everything. Even if it's for insurance? Especially then, she replied. Why? I hesitated. Curiosity. Lyra, she said carefully, what's going on? I'll tell you later. I hung up, opened my notes app, typed 3 words. I choose evidence. Then I got to work. Our lease was month to month, both names on it. Caleb had quit his job 2 months ago. Burnout, he'd called it, and I'd been covering the rent alone. I called our landlord, Miriam, and said, I'm giving 30 days notice. She hesitated, asked if everything was okay. Just simplifying, I said. Next, I opened Instagram and the professional site everyone pretends isn't a social feed. Sienna Hale appeared instantly, smiling, polished, luminous. Her bio read marketing director, wife, dog mom, adventurer. Her grid was a glossy scrapbook of curated joy, sunsets, champagne, a golden retriever named Maple, and one recent post. Weekend getaway with my love. Couldn't ask for more. Her love was Ethan, her husband. I stared at that caption, the one she'd probably typed half distracted, halfway into a glass of wine, and felt the cruel geometry of it all. Caleb wanted to put Sienna's name on our baby's birth certificate. Not mine, not his, hers, because, as he'd said, it's easier. He wanted to turn her into the legal mother of a child she didn't carry, while I sat in waiting rooms paying bills and believing in futures. I took a screenshot of his text, then another, then a dozen, and I sent them to Ethan Hale. Subject: Your wife's name is about to appear on someone else's birth certificate. Body: Hi, Ethan. You don't know me, but my name is Lyra Park. I'm pregnant with Caleb Rowan's child. Today, Caleb texted me saying he plans to put your wife's name, Sienna, on our baby's birth certificate because it's easier for insurance. I thought you should know before your wife becomes legally tied to something that could destroy both our lives. Screenshots attached. Lyra. I attached the evidence and hit send. Then, because I'm not just righteous, I'm human, I went to a gift website, chose a new mom spa basket, and had it delivered to Sienna's office with a card that read, From Caleb and the baby. Can't wait to make life easier. Petty? Maybe. Therapeutic? Absolutely. When I returned to the clinic, Caleb was walking out, beaming, holding the ultrasound photo like a trophy. They say she's the size of a blueberry, he grinned. Or maybe he. Baby fruit analogies are dumb. Adorable, I said. He studied me for a moment. You okay? You look pale. Just thinking, I said. He nodded, satisfied. Everything's perfect, Lyra. We're going to be such a great team. I smiled, because sometimes silence is the sharpest tool in the drawer. That evening, we ate pasta and watched a sitcom. He talked about baby names and nursery colors. I talked about groceries and paint samples. He didn't notice the open suitcase by the closet or the folder labeled lease termination on my laptop. At 8:46 p.m., the first call came. Unknown number. I let it ring out. At 8:52, Caleb's phone started lighting up, vibrating across the table. Then again, and again. He frowned, answered. Hey. I didn't need to hear both sides to know who it was. Sienna's voice was audible, even through the phone's small speaker. Caleb, what the hell is wrong with you? Ethan just got an email. From her. From the woman you knocked up. You told her you'd put my name on the birth certificate? Are you insane? He froze, glancing at me like a child caught with an open cookie jar. Sienna, calm down. It's not like that. Then what is it? She snapped. Because it sounds exactly like what it is. Fraud. You're trying to drag me into your mess. Ethan's threatening legal action. Fix this, or I will. Click. Caleb turned toward me, face red, jaw clenched. What did you do? I folded my sweater. Which part? You emailed her husband. Yes. You had no right, you had no plan, I said. Just a crime dressed as convenience. He raked a hand through his hair. You don't understand. I was trying to make things easier. For who? I interrupted. For the woman whose name you were about to forge? Or for yourself, so you could play dad without paying the bills you keep dodging? He glared. You're being dramatic. No, I said evenly. I'm being legal. He laughed once, bitter. You'll regret this. I already do. He left that night, muttering about needing space. The next morning, Diane, his mother, called. Her tone was sugar and poison mixed in equal measure. How dare you attack my son like this? He's fragile, Lyra. He's going to be a father. Then he should try acting like one, I said. He attempted birth certificate fraud. Oh, don't exaggerate. He was just confused. Hormones, emotions. Hormones made him text about committing a felony? You're heartless, she hissed. No, I said. I'm just not stupid. I hung up, packed the last box, and loaded my car. On the counter, I left a note in neat handwriting. Lease ends in 30 days. Keys on the hook. Good luck explaining Sienna's name to the Department of Health. I shut the door quietly behind me. In my pocket, the new key to my smaller apartment pressed against my palm, small and solid. It felt like the first heartbeat that truly belonged to me. The next 48 hours were chaos disguised as silence. You know that strange stillness before thunder breaks? The one that makes the air taste metallic? That's what it felt like. By the time the first call came, Dawn hadn't even finished arriving. My phone blinked once, twice, then again. 3 missed calls from unknown numbers. I ignored them. By sunrise, there were 29. At 8 a.m., the storm landed. Sienna Hale had gone volcanic. Caleb's phone must have lit up like a bonfire, because an hour later, I could hear him shouting through the paper-thin walls of his mother's house. Sienna, calm down, he barked. Her voice was a hiss, loud enough to carry through the line. Calm down? Ethan's threatening to call the police. You put my name on a fake birth plan. You've lost your mind. I didn't actually do anything, Caleb snapped. It was just an idea. An idea that made my husband think I'm having someone else's child, she yelled. Do you know what that looks like? He thinks I was covering for you. He's talking to our lawyers. Then came the sound I'd been waiting for. Click. Dead air. Caleb threw his phone across the room. 10 minutes later, my own phone rang. Diane. Lyra, she started, voice high and shaky. What have you done to my son? Nothing, I said, pouring coffee. He managed to detonate his own life just fine. You had no right to involve that woman. You've embarrassed him. You've embarrassed us. He involved her when he decided her name belonged on our baby's birth certificate, I said evenly. If embarrassment is the price of honesty, consider it paid. You don't understand, she said, lowering her tone. Sienna's husband is powerful. He has connections. He'll ruin Caleb's career. What career? I asked. The one he quit? Or the one where he commits felonies for convenience? Diane hung up without another word. By noon, Sienna's Instagram turned into a battlefield. A black screen, white text. Some people are determined to ruin lives, but truth always wins. I almost admired the phrasing. Almost. Then, 20 minutes later, Ethan Hale reposted it with a caption. Correction. Lies always catch up, and lawyers always answer their phones. The thread exploded. Hundreds of comments. A few from mutual acquaintances of Caleb's, now publicly distancing themselves. That evening, my phone buzzed again. A new message. Ethan Hale. Thank you. She admitted everything. I filed a report documenting Caleb's text. There'll be no charges if he stops now. But this is on record. Sienna and I are handling things privately. I'm sorry for what this caused you. I typed back. You don't owe me an apology. You just got caught in the splash zone of someone else's bad ethics. He replied once more. You deserve better than damage control. Take care of yourself, Lyra. I put my phone face down. For a moment, I actually pitied Sienna, the woman who thought she could bend truth until it broke and somehow walk away uncut. Caleb appeared at my door the next morning. He looked wrecked, bloodshot eyes, shirt half tucked, the posture of a man still building excuses. You happy now? He asked. Define happy, I said. You humiliated me. You humiliated her. You had no right to send those emails. You texted me her full name, I said. You brought her into this, not me. He pointed at me like a prosecutor. You could have talked to me first. I did, I said. You called it paperwork. He started pacing, hands in his hair. I was trying to make life easier. Her insurance. For who? I interrupted. For Sienna, who's now being investigated for possible fraud. For Ethan, whose marriage you detonated. Or for yourself, so you could pretend you were fixing something while you broke everything else. He stopped, jaw tight. God, you're cold. I learned it from watching you. He laughed, the bitter, disbelieving kind. You're not as innocent as you think. No, I said softly. I'm just not as blind as I used to be. He didn't have a response for that. He just stormed out, muttering about lawyers and misunderstandings. By the weekend, everything was public. Local gossip blogs picked up the story. A love triangle meets insurance scam. The kind of headline that makes people read twice, then send it to a friend. One article quoted an unnamed source from Sienna's company saying, legal counsel has been retained. Another cited leaked messages, my screenshots, republished by someone who clearly followed me. Caleb tried to get ahead of it. He posted a long status about betrayal, privacy, and being misunderstood. The first comment was brutal. Maybe don't suggest forgery on a birth certificate. Another. Insurance fraud isn't a personality type, Caleb. He deleted the post within the hour. That night, Robert Rowan, his father, called. Lyra, he said slowly, I just want you to know, not everyone in this family thinks you did wrong. Thank you, I said. That's kind of you. Diane's upset, but she'll calm down. And Caleb, well, maybe this is what he needs. A good, clean wall to hit. I didn't plan to humiliate him, I said. I know, Robert replied. You just held up the mirror. He didn't like what he saw. After we hung up, I sat on the floor of my new apartment. Smaller, quieter, mine. The city outside hummed its usual noise, indifferent and comforting. I realized something. The loudest part of my old life wasn't laughter or love. It was damage control. Every conversation had been another excuse. Every calm moment, another rehearsal for chaos. Now there was just stillness. My reflection in the window didn't look like someone waiting to be chosen anymore. It looked like someone who had already chosen herself. A week later, Caleb texted one last time. I'm sorry, I didn't mean for it to go this far. I read it twice, then replied, It always goes exactly as far as the first lie you tell yourself. Then I blocked his number. I watered my plants, changed the sheets, and breathed, really breathed, for what felt like the first time in a year. Peace wasn't loud. It didn't announce itself. It just stayed when the noise finally left. 3 months passed, and the world finally stopped spinning sideways. Or maybe I just learned how to stand still while it did. Caleb hadn't called in weeks, but his silence felt less like peace and more like a warning light you don't trust. The baby was due any day now, and with every kick I felt two things at once. Love, pure and overwhelming, and anger, sharp as glass, that he'd almost erased me from her story. When the call came, it was from Diane. Her voice sounded tired, brittle at the edges. Lyra, she's here. A girl. I pressed the phone to my chest for a moment, breath held, heartbeat steady. What's her name? I asked. A pause. Sienna, she said softly. Of course. He'd actually done it. Named our daughter after the woman whose name he'd tried to put on the birth certificate. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just said, I'll be there soon. I didn't go into the delivery room. I waited in the hallway outside the maternity ward. Same smell, same beige walls, but it felt like another planet. Through the small window, I saw him, Caleb, holding her, shoulders tense, face flooded with that awe men get when they realize something beyond them exists. When he came out, his eyes searched for me, like forgiveness might be standing there. She's perfect, he whispered. You should see her. I will, I said, after we do the paternity test. The smile vanished. Lyra, really? You're going to ruin this moment with proof, I said. You made it necessary. He groaned, running his hands through his hair. You're impossible. No, I said softly. I'm consistent. The nurse came out, swabs and forms in hand. I watched as Caleb scribbled his signature like a man signing a confession. 48 hours later, the email came. 99% probability. Caleb Rowan is the biological father. Relief came, but not like sunlight. More like the slow unclenching of a fist you'd forgotten you'd been holding. When I told him, his voice brightened. See, I told you. Now we can move past all this. Past fraud? Past betrayal? Past you trying to replace me with another woman? I asked. He blinked, like he hadn't expected me to say it out loud. Lyra, we're a family. We should raise her together. No, I said, shaking my head. We'll raise her, but not together. He frowned, that wounded confusion men wear when they realize consequences are not optional. You can't just cut me out. I'm not, I said. I'm filing for joint custody. She deserves stability, and I deserve peace. 2 weeks later, the courthouse smelled like cold coffee and paper dust. My lawyer, a woman named Grace, was calm and sharp, her confidence the kind that made nervous people quiet. We'll go for joint legal custody, primary residence with you, she said, spreading the papers across the table. He'll get scheduled visitation. The evidence makes this simple. I looked at the folder, my screenshots, the emails, the message where Caleb had typed Sienna's name like it was harmless. That text, Grace said, tapping the page, is your entire case. Caleb's family won't go down easy, I warned. Grace smiled faintly. They never do, but they always lose. The hearing was surreal, too calm for what it contained. Caleb wore a navy suit that didn't fit right. Diane sat behind him, arms folded, lips pressed into a line. Robert kept his gaze low, hands knotted in his lap. When the judge entered, everyone stood. He was older, weary in the eyes, but kind in the posture, the kind of man who'd heard every story twice. Ms. Park, he said, glancing at my lawyer, you're requesting joint custody? Yes, Your Honor, I said. I want my daughter to know both her parents, but I also want her to grow up knowing the truth. The judge nodded, then turned to Caleb. Mr. Rowan, is it true you suggested another woman's name be placed on the birth certificate? Caleb's jaw flexed. It was a misunderstanding. I didn't mean... My lawyer cut in smoothly. We have the text, Your Honor, word for word. When the baby comes, I'm putting Sienna's name on the birth certificate. It's easier for insurance. The judge raised his brows. Mr. Rowan, that's not a misunderstanding. That's intent. Caleb's face flushed. I was under stress. It was a mistake. Grace didn't miss a beat. Mistakes are leaving milk out overnight. This was premeditated deceit. The courtroom went still. Even the stenographer looked up for a second. The judge leaned back, sighing through his nose. Mr. Rowan, attempting to falsify a birth record is fraud. Were you aware of that? Caleb nodded weakly. Yes, sir. Then you'll also be aware that this court will prioritize Ms. Park's stability and judgment in determining custody. The ruling came fast. Joint legal custody, primary residence with the mother, graduated physical custody for the father, and mandatory parenting counseling. The gavel hit the desk with a sharp, satisfying crack. Outside, Caleb followed me into the parking lot. You're really doing this? He asked, voice low, desperate. Yes, I said, buckling my bag over my shoulder. He laughed once, bitter. You're punishing me. I'm protecting her, I said, and myself. He took a step closer. You'll regret this. I turned, met his eyes, and said, No, Caleb, I already regretted staying. He didn't respond. He just looked at me like a man who finally realized what losing looked like. Not a slammed door, not a screaming match, just a woman walking away calmly. That night, I sat beside the crib, watching Sienna, the baby, not the ghost of his past, breathe softly, one tiny hand curled near her cheek. She was perfect, entirely innocent of the wreckage that had built her world. I reached down, brushed her hair back, and whispered, You'll never have to earn honesty, little one. Not from me. She stirred, sighed, and fell back asleep. For the first time in months, the silence didn't sound empty. It sounded earned. The next morning, I opened my phone to a new message. Sienna Hale. I heard about the court ruling. For what it's worth, I'm sorry he dragged me into that. Ethan and I are fixing things. Thank you for telling the truth when neither of us could. I typed a reply, then deleted it. Some things don't need closure. I looked around the apartment, the pale morning light, the half-drunk coffee, the tiny pink socks drying on the rack, and realized this was what peace looked like. Not loud, not cinematic, just steady. And in that steadiness, I found something better than revenge: freedom. 3 months later, the world had softened around the edges. The noise was gone, replaced by small sounds that mattered: the click of the kettle, the hum of Ava's lullaby mobile, the sigh she made when she dreamed. Life had become smaller, intentionally so. But smaller didn't mean less. It meant mine. I worked, I mothered, I healed. Slowly, quietly. Then one Friday afternoon, as the winter sun slipped low, my phone lit up with a name I hadn't seen in weeks. Caleb. Can we meet? It's important. I stared at the screen for a long time before typing back one word. Where? He chose a cafe near the courthouse. Neutral ground, the kind of place where truths were easier to say because nobody cared enough to listen. When I arrived, he was already there. Same window seat as the last time, hands wrapped around a paper cup gone cold. His shirt was rumpled, hair longer, face thinner, like someone who'd finally run out of ways to charm his way out of consequences. Lyra, he said softly, standing halfway before sitting back down. You look good. I smiled faintly. You look tired. He chuckled, but it broke halfway through. Yeah, parenting will do that to you. How's Sienna? I asked. Our Sienna. His eyes flicked up, surprised. She's perfect. She started laughing last week. I smiled for real then. She has your eyes. He nodded. She has your calm. We let the silence stretch between us until it started to ache. Then he took a breath, the kind that meant he'd rehearsed this. I wanted to say I'm sorry, he began. Not just for the text or the birth certificate thing, for everything, for making you feel like you had to fight to matter. I waited. There's power in waiting. He swallowed. You didn't deserve any of it. And I keep thinking maybe we could try again. For her. There it was, the plea that was always coming, the kind that hides self-interest inside sentiment. Caleb, I said gently, we are trying. We're raising her. We're doing the work. That's what parenting is. He shook his head. That's not what I mean. I mean, us. I've changed. I want to make things right. I studied him. His eyes were sincere, but sincerity is cheaper than truth. Do you remember what you said that day at the clinic? I asked. He frowned. Which part? When you told me Sienna's name would be on the birth certificate because it was easier. He closed his eyes, pained. I was scared, Lyra. I wasn't thinking. No, I said softly. You were thinking exactly. You just weren't thinking of me. He looked down at his coffee. I wish I could undo it. I know, I said. But wanting to undo something isn't the same as fixing it. You can't unburn paper, Caleb. You just write somewhere else. He gave a weak laugh. You always talk like that, like you're in a movie. Maybe, I said, but at least I'm not living in a rerun. He looked at me for a long time, eyes tired. So that's it? No second chance? I thought about it, really thought. About the ache that used to wake me up at night, the guilt, the years of almosts. Then I shook my head. Change doesn't mean you get me back, I said quietly. It means you don't ruin the next person who loves you. He nodded slowly, like he finally understood the cost of every word he'd ever thrown away. You're stronger than me. No, I said. I just stopped confusing forgiveness with weakness. I stood, gathered my bag, and gave him a small, sad smile. Goodbye, Caleb. He didn't try to stop me this time. That night, Ava wouldn't sleep unless I held her. I sat in the rocking chair, her tiny head resting against my heart, her breath warm and even. The room was dim, just the nightlight glowing soft gold, shadows drifting across the wall like slow waves. I looked down at her, at the small miracle who had arrived through so much noise, and whispered, You'll grow up knowing what love looks like, sweetheart. It's not someone begging for another chance. It's someone never putting you in a position to need one. She stirred, then settled again. I thought of all the things Caleb had taught me without realizing it. That lies never stay small, that convenience is just cowardice with good lighting, and that peace, once found, isn't loud. It just stays. A week later, an envelope arrived in my mailbox. The handwriting was neat, deliberate. From Diane Rowan. Inside was a single note. Lyra, I know you'll never forgive Caleb, but thank you for being a good mother to Sienna. You were right. Boundaries aren't cruelty. They're love with a spine. Diane. I set the letter on the dresser beside the baby monitor and smiled. Now, when people ask, because they always do, how did you stay calm through all that? I tell them the truth. Calm doesn't mean you weren't burning. It means you learned how to hold the fire without letting it touch the baby. Because that's what motherhood is. Loving someone enough to rebuild your life from ash, quietly, while everyone else keeps watching the smoke. And every night, when Ava stirs, I whisper to her the words that saved me. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. And when life shows you that you can survive without them, believe that too. Outside, the city hums like a heartbeat I no longer chase. Inside, my daughter dreams. And peace, real peace, stays.